Right, hi. I'm Gustav Svanborg Eden, as you can tell, and I'm the project manager for something called Skeitti Malmö, which is a joint effort between the city of Malmö and the skaters of Malmö. But I'm employed by the city. So I'm going to talk about my job, a little bit about the Malmö skateboarding history, how we've gone from being a city that's not very popular for skating to being sort of a global destination for skating. I'm also going to talk about what the why one should promote skating in a city, and I'm sure you guys have covered this a bit today. My Finnish isn't great, so I apologize if I sort of double back on some of the issues you've covered. But I'm just going to go ahead and please, if you know all about it, just tell me to go on and I'll keep going. Right. So, and I guess it may be a little bit difficult for you guys to read. Can you read this okay? Yeah, it's all right? Perfect. And as I've discovered and know, there's you already have a lot of amazing skate parks and amazing people that work with skating in Finland. So I'm not here to try and say how great we are in Sweden or whatever. But I hope if there's anything that I can help clarify, parts of this presentation are quite straightforward. So at least, hopefully, it's clear. All right, okay. So in Malmö, one of the main things that we have going for us is that we have a really strong skateboarding organization, which is Bryggeriet. And they run the local skate park, and they have the contract to clean and repair the skate parks in Malmö. And they also help us with activating the parks during summer and so on. And the City of Malmö skateboarding program, which is what I manage, it's under the Streets and Parks Department, which is important in the Malmö story. But it used to be under the Events Department. And most of the funding that we get to do this project is dedicated to our main events. And Skate Malmö is a brand that we've created to communicate Malmö as a skate city. Because when you communicate to skaters, you might not necessarily want to have a big city logo on the things you do. And we also want to signal that there's a partnership between the city and the skaters, that both parties are necessary to create. So, right, so where are we today? I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Malmö is a global destination for skateboarding. We have world-class events, we have companies, skate companies that are sold all over the world. We have videos that are recorded in Malmö that are seen by everybody in skateboarding. And if you go to Brazil and you meet a skater in the jungle somewhere, sorry, that's a bit, yeah. But they'll know what Malmö is. They know that they'll go, oh, you're from Malmö. Oh, skateboarding, cool. So, yeah. And there is a really progressive relationship between the skaters and the city. But it wasn't always like that. I mean, Malmö doesn't necessarily have the conditions necessary to make a great skate city. The weather is maybe a little bit warmer than here, but not too much. The architecture is not great. I mean, you have these lovely stone pavements here that look smooth at least. But our architecture was never really that good. And the attitude towards skating used to be quite negative. People didn't know what skating was. They thought it was something noisy that young people did to cause damage and essentially be a nuisance. So, the question is, where did it start? How did Malmö take this journey? And I hope we can make this work with sound. So, hang on. Oh, come on. Oh. All right. Okay, so this, you probably didn't hear that too well, but this was a garage under the main shopping mall in the city. And it was heated because there was a vent from the local Thai restaurant that would like funnel all the hot air out. And the ground was unusually smooth, and the lighting was unusually good because it was kind of a dark corner of the garage. And in all of southern Sweden, there was no indoor parks. So everyone, all the skaters in the whole region, some from Denmark too, came to Malmö to skate this garage between 7 and 9 at night when the shops had closed, because it was a place where they could meet. And so somewhere along the line, there was someone caught on to the Swedish sort of free time club program. So if you start a club, you could get funding. So if you're into playing Dungeons and Dragons, or if you do computer games, or if you play basketball, you can start a club and get funding. So the skaters started a club, and they started getting more and more members because they were the hub of this whole region. And all of a sudden the council went, hey, there's 100 members, 200 members in this club for skateboarding. They'd never heard much from skateboarding before.
What year was it?
This was probably around 92, 93. So it's right at the dip of skateboarding when it wasn't very popular in the rest of the world. After the vert, sort of big 80s vert culture had sort of dipped down, and skateboarding had become something very technical with very strange clothes, and most people had quit. And so the skaters were given a chance by the council. They were given a classroom in an abandoned school. There was a school that was being torn down and all the students had left. So they were given a chance to build a ramp in a classroom. So they built a ramp and they got even more members and more people came to Malmö. And so they realized that, okay, we've got a relationship with the council now. We're going to start pushing for a park. So they spent years trying to find a bigger space to create an indoor park. And around this time, the local brewery, I think it was a Spendrups or Pripps brewery, they moved from factories in central Malmö somewhere else. So these big factory halls were abandoned. And the city didn't know what to do with them. And someone put up a suggestion that it would be like a youth center. So parts of these factories became a youth center, and then they gave the space to the skate park, or to the skaters. And so the brewery, Bryggeriet, was founded as the local skate organization, and they built, what was at the time the biggest indoor park in Europe, I think. And because that park was built, they started, when they built the park, they started hosting events. And the skaters had a good network across Europe. So Volcom came and America came and did big events, and they had the European Cup indoor skateboarding finals in Bryggeriet. Right. Which also helped the organization grow and, brought money to the organization. But when you have a factory, you have the sort of machinery in the bottom floor, and then upstairs you usually have the offices, right? So in Bryggeriet they had all this office space on the top floor that they didn't know what to do with. And the skaters realized that they could rent the spaces out to the local university to hold courses. And one of those courses was a project management course, where the final assignment was to do a project plan. And so one of the skaters, Jan Magnusson, who's one of the driving people in Malmö skateboarding, he decided, I'll take the course myself. So he took the course, and his final sort of plan that he did was how to build a concrete park in Malmö. And around this time, concrete parks hadn't really been built very much for a long time. There was one I think in Sheffield, and there was a few starting to pop up in Europe. But no real big new transition-driven parks had been built for a long time. And in Malmö, there had been the housing exhibition, Bullnollet, out by the coastal area. They built this whole new part of the city with these architectural marvels, these really fancy flats. But then they had all the old shipping industry space that was completely empty before that area of town met the city, so there was a lot of free space. So when Jon put the proposal into the council, there was money left in some sort of budget for developing this space. And there was no real destination activity there. So Gunnar Eriksson, the council, went, okay, I think we can do this. And they put a project group together and they built Stapelbäddsparken, which is this park here. And because the craft of knowing the skaters knew how important it was to know how to build a real park. So they contacted skaters in Portland, Oregon, who had a history of making concrete parks and also do-it-yourself activity and so on. So those guys came over and they had their team, but they also taught the local skaters how to build the park. And when the park was finished, Quicksilver, how many people know what Quicksilver is? It's a surf/skate clothing brand, right? They had a big comp in Marseille every year for 8 years running. And it was in the same park, the same skaters would come, they would do the same tricks, and people started getting a bit tired of it, so it didn't quite give them the resonance that they wanted, the sort of advertising benefits and so on. So when this park was built, they were, hey, can we hold this event in Malmö? We need a change. So the skaters were approached by Quicksilver, and they realized pretty quickly that we can't do this ourselves. We need a partner within the city. And that was my predecessor. He had just started at the events department, and someone went, oh, these skaters want to hold the European Cup bowl final or something. Who wants it? And he put his hand up and said, okay, I'll do it. So the city put some money in and partnered with the skaters in communicating with Quicksilver for the Quicksilver Bowl Riders. And I think the first one was in 2006. Yeah, so this is the 2008 rendition. And that lasted for 3 years. And every year, the city of Malmö put more money into the project because they were so happy with the results. But after the third year, the recession hit. So Quicksilver said, oh, we can't do the company, we have to cut back. But then the city had already approved money. So the skaters, the byggeriet, and the city went, well, we have this money, and we know the skaters, we're pretty much ready to book flights. Why don't we just do this on our own? And that's when Ultra Bowl was launched. So Malmö created its own kind of Grand Slam bowl comp, which then ran for 8 years. And it's still going, except we have something new this year, which I'll get to later. And hosting these comps has, for one thing, it's given us a budget every year, quite a big budget, to have a big event that puts Malmö on the map. But it's also helped us develop a relationship with the skaters for other projects and other initiatives, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And it's also really put us on the map because we have all the new up-and-coming sort of pro skaters that skate these types of parks. They come to Malmö. And so most of the sort of famous skaters that skate this kind of terrain, they have been to Malmö, and it creates a great network for us as a city overall. Okay, so that's the big event. That's the sort of foundation of our work. But there's more to Malmö than just the comps. And that's the DIY scene. How many people know what DIY stand for? Well, hey, okay, do it yourself. When the skaters learned how to build concrete, when Stapelbäddsparken was built, they decided to sort of take matters into their own hands a little bit. Ooh.
When we built the park, we didn't have
Oh, hang on. We'll go back to that. This, just a quick note on this spot. This, the skaters developed that spot next to the train line themselves. It had a little bank up to a fence, and they started pouring concrete there. And Pontus Alv, who you saw here, he filmed this process and made some very personal videos capturing the sort of DIY aesthetic. And they were seen all around the world. And a lot of people started coming to Malmö to skate these spots. And this spot, we had one complaint from a bike rider who said, oh, this is a bike path I use, and the skaters have sort of taken over now a little bit. And my predecessor took this to the council, or his superiors in the council, and said, okay, so we've got a skate destination that hundreds of people come to every year. And we have one bike complaint, and there's a bike path 100 meters away that's more connects to the city better. So either we can tear the skate spot down, or we can sort of put signs up saying that, okay, this is a shared bike path skate spot. Or we can reclassify it as a skate spot and tell the bike rider that there's a perfectly good bike path if you just go around the neighborhood the other way. And they decided on the third option. So this is actually a case where we have worked with the skaters to reclassify a space. It's a public space. It's a väg, so walking, cycling path, so that skateboarding is allowed. And let's see where we were.
What's right there used to be all empty here, just old factory foundation. When we built the park, we didn't have any plan for it.
Sorry to repeat it.
Just everybody got a little piece in it.
Yeah, this spot here.
This year we skated here every day for 2 months. This is the New York Bank. You don't have it, you got to do it. This is kind of like the spot in London. I don't know about the puhujat, tricks and those who are into this great bank. Kind of like the same idea. I mean, if you want to have something good to skate, you want to have something that's interesting, fun, you got to do it. I mean, you don't find yourself things in the streets. And here I got everything you need in one small place and perfect, you know. We go skate. I got the camera with me, and whatever happens, happens. But we always end up having some photos, some footage, and we just do something really good. You have to be creative to find new stuff all the time. That's what great people does. That's exactly what he's looking for, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Stories for the strange. It's quite a slice of history from Malmö skating. Right?
This is one of the videos they made that was sort of seen.
Development we've done with the DIY stuff. And I think it was really inspiring for a lot of people. That you can really create your own skate scene, basically just by bricks and concrete. I think a lot of people like this would be refreshing to see that with the whole DIY documentary thing inspired a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, in the 90s at least, skateboarding was very centered to Southern California. And everyone wanted to go to San Francisco, Embarcadero, or perhaps LA and skate in the sunny weather and the perfect schoolyards, because that's where the whole industry was focused. And that's what kids saw. That's the clothes they wanted to wear, that's the attitude they wanted to have. And then I think what actually was important with these films, and I'm not saying it's all Malmö, but it was a big chunk of it. Someone came up and said, if you don't have it, you can do it yourself. And our weather isn't good, but we're going to make something out of it. And they made good videos with good skating and a nice aesthetic. And that was really resonated with a lot of people. And so today, for skaters, as you probably heard, it's kind of normal to pour concrete. It's kind of normal to find an abandoned space and make something. And I think, I mean, if you want young people to sort of, have something to aspire to, it's not too bad to tell them that they can create something themselves. And from a council perspective, what this means is that Malmö, from the skaters' own work and their exposure, has become a destination city for the next generation of skaters. So we have, covers of magazines, we have documentary films. You saw this was VBS TV, it's from Vice, their TV channel. Pontus started a skateboard company on the back of this, became the brand of the year. We have, Malmö gets exposed a lot, essentially. And this whole package with the big events and the DIY scene, and also the fact that we have a skate high school. We have a school where you can go to study all the normal subjects of the school, but it's now in Bryggeriet skate park. And some of the teachers are skaters, so you can use skating as a motivator. Like if you're going to learn film, you can film skating, and then when you edit it, you have a teacher that helps you, It's become sort of created an image for Malmö that's quite famous. And Vans, how many people know Vans? Vans is the first ever skate shoe brand. It comes from Huntington Beach, California. And they're the main competitor, you could say, to Nike and Adidas within the skate shoe industry. And this year they're launching their new World Championship, which they're sort of pitching to become one of the disciplines for the Olympics. But they're launching a global series with skateboarding in a particular type of park that's not too deep and not too shallow. And originally, they came to us, or we've been in touch with them because we worked with them for different events in the past. But they wanted us to be the EMEA region competition, so Europe, Middle East, and Asia. And they originally wanted to work in an arena and sort of have a big show, build a park, and go away. And we told them that every event that we do in Malmö, we wanted to have long-term repercussions for the scene. Like if we create something and spend a lot of money on a big splash, we want that to resonate within the scene long-term. So we said that if you're going to build a park in an arena, why not build it in the city instead? And we happened to have a park that had just got a legally tendered plan that was supposed to be an activity park. So we found a space in Hyllie, or right between three different kinds of areas. One very new, very affluent area, and two sort of older Malmö, not so rich areas, you could say. And so we pitched to them, like, why not, if you're going to, we'll dig the hole, you give us the park. And our second condition was that we wanted a female division, because all our events, we try to promote female skateboarding. There's no reason why there shouldn't be more female skaters. People just haven't seen it yet, so they think it's just for guys. Same as they did with football or anything. But that's growing very fast. We actually have statistics from the new sort of skate courses in the summer, where there's more girls starting the skate courses than guys. But that's a different story. Anyways, so Van started looking at this and went, hey, we were gonna have a big event in Chicago with a female final and so on. So, but now the Malmö project is starting to look more like the final than the final. So they decided to cancel the World Championship final in Chicago and move it to Malmö instead. So now we're going to host the first World Championship final. In skateboarding, people have said World Championship before, but yeah, they're pitching it that way, and I think it is. And so you can see the other competitions are in Melbourne, Brazil, Vancouver, Huntington Beach, and then us. So, and this is what Justin Reagan had to say about our city. Can you read that? What you guys are doing in Malmö is so unique, so far ahead of everywhere else. You're integrated skating in the city, hosting world-class events, building parks, producing top-level riders. You even have a skate school. We want to open the eyes of the world to how skateboarding can work within any city. That's why we can't think of a better place than Malmö to have the World Championship final. That's very nice to hear. And sorry if it sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but yeah. Right, so what's the point? Why is skateboarding such a good idea, essentially? Skateboarding picks up where a lot of other activities don't attract young people anymore. So skateboarding is not just skateboarding. It's a way to socialize. It's a way to tie something you like into other interests. So there's that classic joke, how many skaters does it take to do a trick? And there's one skating, there's two filming, and one photographer, and then someone writing about it. Skating connects you to other interests. And I think that's a really important thing. Another thing is that when you go to a skate spot, you don't just hang out with... There's no line that you can't skate with someone who's not from your age group. Like when you go to a skate spot, you'll have someone, like at Saapuneet's parking, there's people in the mid-50s skating with 7-year-olds, and it's completely normal. They hang out and they talk about what boards they have, or, and that in any other sport context, that's unheard of. You just don't do it, because other sports are more geared towards competing against each other on, as you know. And also, skateboarding appeals to individualist people that don't like having a coach telling them what to do, people who want to decide for themselves, people who perhaps don't respect the coach because they have other ideas they want to explore. And those people, a lot of the time, have a lot of energy and a lot of drive. But unless they find somewhere an outlet for that, they can become quite expensive people. They can turn, for any season, they can become quite angry. They can find drugs and they can find other things. So skateboarding kind of creates an outlet for those kinds of people. And skateboarding is growing. How many sports do you think Nike are involved in today? Rough, any guess?
100.
100? That's a good guess. 5.
What?
They just cut snowboarding, so it was 6. But golf, since Tiger Woods, right? Not too long ago. Tennis, football, basketball, skateboarding. Also, it's looking to become an Olympic sport in 2020. I mean, skaters don't usually like to think of skating as just a sport, but there's certainly ways to hold competitions. And the Olympics are desperate to get skating because 60% of their television audience in the US is over 50 years old. And they need to connect with the next generation, so they're really trying to get skateboarding. And this Vans World Championship is a part of that story, which is interesting and it's a separate discussion, I think. But also, skateboarding is growing for women, and we work very hard to promote it. And we realize that just by giving a platform and shining a light on girls that skate, put them out there, it grows very quickly. The main reason why you don't see more girls skating is that they haven't seen other girls skating. So if you hold a comp, you need to have a girls' comp. Companies need to sponsor girls. They need to be put out there because, once they're out there, the rest will come. Another thing we work with is trying to use skating to activate spaces in the city. I know some of you talked about this before. But essentially, skating is a creative interaction with the urban environment. It's a sort of hunting and gathering thing. You go out, you try and find something. You have your skateboard as a tool to sort of see what you can do. Like, how can you first find a place and then interact with it in a way, and then document it and show it to your friends and see, I was here, I saw that potential, I did that. And if you think about it, skaters like to move around the city. They like to occupy different spaces. And today you have a lot of problems with people staying at home. And you have spaces in the city that are dead or inactive. There's a very famous skate spot in Philadelphia called Love Park. And it was a park that became a sort of haven for drug addicts and so on in the 80s. because it was essentially just a stone environment. And so people felt that it was kind of unsafe to go in there because, you might be attacked by a homeless person on the ground. But then the skaters they found it and they started skating there. And, if you see a 14-year-old kid skating around, you don't necessarily feel that intimidated anymore because something's happening. A 14-year-old kid doesn't seem so intimidating. So that park became very popular as a skate destination, and then it sort of regained its life. But then the council were like, oh, this is a really popular park, but there's all these kids skating. So they put skate stoppers, like these metal clamps on the ledges. People stopped coming there, the skaters stopped coming, and then people stopped coming, and then the addicts came back. And then the skaters have been debating getting that park back for years, but you can activate dead spaces. And if you think about it, all the problems with skating, does anyone think that skaters want to sort of cause damage? Or anyone that is a skater, have you ever felt like going out and smashing something for the sake of it? If you're angry, fine. A lot of young people feel angry and they want to leave their mark and they just want to, get it out, which is why you need that kind of outlet. But most people don't. They just want to skate, right? So what are the problems? Why do we have these problems with skateboarding? First of all, young people do it. Oh, young guys, loud, not to be trusted. Second, the noise. Where does the noise come from? Noise comes from the wheels and trucks and board meeting hard surfaces, usually unsmooth surfaces. So if you have really small tiles, it's going to make a lot of noise. If you have a really smooth ground, it won't make any noise, or it'll make some noise, but not too much. Okay, so the next issue with the noise is, where is the noise? If you have a really smooth pavement with a good ledge right outside someone's bedroom window, it's not going to matter that it's smooth because you're in the wrong place. You're disrupting someone, right? But what about a big open space where the sound dies down within 50, 60 meters if you have a smooth surface? Not the same problem anymore, right? Okay, what about the damage caused from the boards skipping and the trucks grinding on the ledges? Why does that arise? Okay, because you have the wrong materials. You have wood, or you have some cheap fake concrete that chips, or you have something else that breaks. Well, what about you've got all this stone here? I was blown away by how much amazing granite blocks there are all over the city here. Use good blocks. Like these blocks here we put in a few years ago in a square that had sort of used to be a skate spot, but then had sort of died down, and then the sort of homeless people had sort of taken over, and it had a negative vibe, and people didn't want to stop and engage with the space. So we put these granite sort of ledges in there that were made from the same granite as the rest of the stone and the ground and so on, so they blended into the space. But they're also durable. You can skate those for 100 years and they won't wear down. And if someone sits on it, it's a bench. If someone skates on it, it's a skatable bench. But there's a negotiation with the space. No one owns it, but the functionality is there. So that problem is gone. And the point is that skaters want to skate, they don't want to cause damage. So put the skatable stuff in the right place, make the surfaces smooth, and make the materials. Use the right materials, right? And if you're going to use the wrong, don't design something that you then have to skate stop. We'll get to that later. Anyways, that's essentially showing people you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so in Malmö, what really benefits us is that we have different types of skate spots. We have the DIY stuff that attracts people that want to skate that. Oh, these guys build it themselves. I want to go there and I want to skate that too. Maybe I'll pour some concrete. Then we have normal spots. When the city develops new spaces, sometimes, like some of my colleagues in the Streets and Parks Department, they come to me and ask, okay, we got these ledges here, I'm concerned that they might be damaged. Is there anything we can do? And I try and guide them, okay, so this is if it's in a really active space, perhaps it shouldn't be skated, because the skaters will disrupt the flow and that'll be bad for people's perception of skating, right? But maybe in some places it's not so bad, and then we can adjust the spaces so that they work for skating, and that way we'll add something to the city. And the third is where we actually have an intervention, where we see a space that has a lot of skating potential, but it's not quite there, and so we put skate-friendly architecture in. And then we try to activate it with events as well. Third is our skate parks. We have 3 main skate parks in the city, maybe 10 within half an hour drive around the city. They're all built by Bryggeriet skate parks. The skate organization has started their own skate organization. We have a partnership with them where they put a lot of extra work into the parks in Malmö because they know it's a part of the partnership we have. So we have a really good dialogue, and the city gets a good deal, to be fair, from the parks. And so what we do is, okay, right. What should we do and what shouldn't we do? And I'm sorry if this is I'm speaking to you like it's very basic. You probably know all this already, but still. We try to be tolerant, and we try to be supportive, and we try to listen to the skaters when taking the next step. What do they want? How can we go one step further? Actually, something we're working on, which you might, I'll plant some seeds here, but if skating becomes part of the Olympics in 4 years, there's a sort of danger that it will be classified as a sport. So something to think about is there any way to make sort of more creative or different kinds of events, like art-driven events, where you have an artist and skaters meeting, creating obstacles and skating together, to sort of highlight this creative interaction with the environment. It's something we're trying to work on in the future. Right, so what we do is basically we create new spaces, we activate them with events so that people realize, okay, this is a skate park, but yeah, it's a skate park where something happens. We also, in the skate parks, we collaborate with a skate organization and help them with funding so that they can you can come there and try skateboarding for free. If we have scooter kids, if scootering is not allowed, we want there to be another option, and the skate park or the skate organization is necessary for that, so that they can say, unfortunately, you can't use the scooter, but here's a skateboard, we'll teach you how to use it. And that's very important, that they're there to create a positive environment, and that they have the resources to do that. So, basically, if you're going to be working with skaters in your city, a lot of the time they know what they're talking about. If they don't, help them set their organization up. If they don't know how to have a club or an organization, they need the guidance of the city. No one else can provide that for them. A lot of the time you find that I think skaters need to learn something as well, which is that councils are there for them. And if you get a no, you need to just sort of work around it. And if you find someone in the council to listen to, then you just got to work together. But for us, Bryggeriet has been crucial. They've driven this whole story. For everything that they've given twice that back. Like, they could have been happy with that mini ramp in the school, but now we have the World Championship final in Malmö, because for everything they've done, they've always wanted more, and they've always done more. And I think that's something that's really impressive about skateboarding culture. Right, next thing. Don't build prefab parks. Every council gets these brochures, and it's like, hey, look at these kids skating these perfect skate objects. Like I saw, you had a presentation earlier with the certified
piece of sod.
certified piece of stuff, yeah. So you get these modular parks that cost a fortune. People who have no idea how to space them, put them in a space, no one uses them, and then the story for the young skaters is that, okay, you came to the council, you wanted a skate park, there's some construction company that says these are great, and we've given it to you, but now you won't use it, your problem. They don't use it because it's crap, and because no skater was involved in placing it. You see, the most crazy setups. Building skate parks is a complex thing. You need to have a very sort of clear idea of how spaces work together. Like if I was to stand here, put my board down, try and do a trick before I get over there, I probably wouldn't have the time. But if you could build a mini ramp here of a certain dimension, but if you build it this much too high, it's not going to work. It's very, you need to listen to the skaters and you need to work with real skateboarders to build the parks. And then this is my pet hate. There's few things I hate as much as this. Essentially, if you use skate stoppers, you're saying that we couldn't do our job properly. We built the perfect skate spot and then we said, haha, can't come here because you're not part of the city. Young people who want to do something and activate the city and be part of everything, you're not allowed because you might chip this bank's perfect marble. Who, incidentally, we've chipped ourselves by putting these disgusting things on it. Looks terrible, sends the wrong message, it basically alienates a whole generation of young people. There's 1,000 ways you could have taken that ledge and made it unskateable without first making it skateable and then making it unskateable. Just make it rough, or put cobblestones in front of it, or anything like that. Okay, better if you can skate it. If you don't want skaters there, don't make it perfect and then say no, it's just stupid. Right? Okay, so that's my little hate spiel towards the end. Overall, I guess the story of Malmö then is a bunch of young kids with a shared interest that found a free space, started an organization, they got organized, the city said yes at the right points, and the city got more back from saying yes, so it was easy to get more support from the city because the skaters provided the evidence. And now my job exists, which is amazing. There's enough work with skateboarding in Malmö and enough budget to justify having someone working with skateboarding full-time to hold world-class events. And what that means for Malmö in generations to come is massive. So, yeah, thank you very much.